Senator, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being with me. I got to get your take first on the border disaster crisis, and now this idea to put migrant children in military bases, military facilities. Your reaction?
Yeah, I mean, two things. First of all, we're seeing the real-life consequences of campaign rhetoric and first-day policies of a new administration. You know, they ran around basically saying the message was, pretty clear, and that is that both as a candidate and in the early days in office and during the transition period, it is going to be easier and more welcoming for people to come into the United States, even if they do so illegally. And that message went out loud and clear. It was perceived by people that way, and it's driving this crisis that's going to continue to get worse. The second lesson here is hypocrisy. The same people who demanded access to the facilities, who called it children in cages, who were hosting vigils and protests, now, I mean, they're sort of silent about it. I don't see some of these leading figures on the left out there, holding vigils and protests against the administration for doing the exact same thing, in many cases worse than what they accused the Trump administration of. So hypocrisy and incompetence both in full display.
So what do you want to see happen? Do you want to see this administration roll back their overturning of Trump policies? I mean, overturning, for example, the Remain in Mexico policy. That's a head scratcher to me. I don't understand what the point of that was. I also don't understand the point of stopping all construction of the wall when it was paid for. Now there are just corners of wall that are not being finished, and the equipment is right there, and the materials to do so is right there. It's paid for.
Yeah, again, another example of hypocrisy. Many of the same people who wanted to stop building the wall insisted that they put up a fence with razor wire and the National Guard to protect them here in the Capitol. But going back to your point, absolutely, here's what's happened with the Trump policies. They come into office, they decide whatever Donald Trump is for, we're going to reverse it. We're going to be against it without even looking at it whether it makes common sense or not. And the result is almost immediate. So absolutely, I mean, the answer to a lot of these problems is going to be to go back to the Trump policies. But of course, politically that becomes untenable for them to do. So they're in a trap of their own making.
Let me ask you about North Korea conducting its first missile test since President Biden took office after Kim Jong-un's sister threatened the United States last week over resuming military exercises with South Korea, Senator. We know that China has been testing this administration. Now you've got North Korea testing them.
Yeah, and this is part of the pattern. I think this was expected. And that is that, in an early administration, doing these sort of missile tests is their messaging. It's sort of a combination of it's what North Korea's pattern has always been, and that is we're going to go out and take aggressive action to sort of force you to acknowledge us as a nuclear power. So no doubt it's a test. It's not an unexpected one. I think you'll see more of it in the weeks to come. It's a very tricky and delicate situation. I thought the Trump administration, I never thought we were going to get a deal with Kim Jong-un, but I thought they had tampered down some of the conflict there, some of the heat surrounding that issue. And obviously, I think it's going to all spark up again now with a new administration.
Senator, I want to turn to unidentified objects in the air. I had an exclusive interview with the former director of national intelligence, John Ratcliffe, the other night on Fox News, where I asked him about this upcoming Pentagon report, which you, of course, have commissioned or encouraged to have a report on these unidentified objects. Here's John Ratcliffe with me last week. I've got to get your reaction to what's taking place. Have unidentified flying objects been seen?
Well, sure. We have lots of reports about what we call unidentified aerial phenomenon. There are a lot more sightings than have been made public. Sometimes we wonder whether or not our adversaries have technologies that are a little bit further down the road than we thought or that we realized.
So, Senator, what about that? What can you tell us about UFOs?
Well, we have things flying over military installations, over military exercises, and other places, and we don't know what it is. It isn't ours. It isn't anything that's registered with the FAA, and in many cases exhibits attributes of things we've never seen, technology, the kinds of technology we haven't seen before, or at least that's what it seems like. I think you have to know what it is, or we have to try to know what it is. That's my view of it, without any preconceived notions. Maybe there's a logical explanation. Maybe it's something that can be explained away. Maybe it's a foreign adversary who's made a technological leap, as you heard the former DNI said. Whatever it is, we need to know the answer to it. The problem with this issue is every time you raise it, people get all nervous. Oh, does this mean UFOs and aliens and extraterrestrial? We don't have to go that far. It's very simple. There are things flying over national security installations. We don't know who they are. We don't know what it is. It isn't ours. We need to find out.
Well, this is absolutely fascinating. So, I mean, from my standpoint, when I heard John Ratcliffe talk about that, I went and I looked up what you've said about the Pentagon report coming up June 1st. What do you think we're going to learn from that Pentagon report on June 1st?
Well, first, I'm not sure they're going to come in on time, to be honest with you, because they miss a lot of deadlines in government on these sorts of things. But we'll get a report at some point. Second is, I don't know if we're going to know what. I mean, I'm not sure that by June 1st they'll have reached a hard conclusion about what they're dealing with, and there may be more questions or new questions than full answers after the fact. I can tell you it's being taken more seriously now than it ever has been. And look, there's a stigma associated with this, all right? When a Navy pilot would report that they saw something, they were told you need to go see the flight surgeon, to check out your head, make sure you're not seeing things. So there's a stigma associated with reporting it, even talking to you about it now, right? I mean, people are going to go out and say, look what these people are focused on when the world is falling apart. So there's a stigma associated with it, and that's, I think, needs to go away. We don't have any preconceived notions about what this is or isn't. We just need to know, or we need to start trying to know. I think the first step is to ask the question. If you don't ask the question, you're not going to get or begin to get answers.
So it's not necessarily like that we have, little ETs running around, aliens, but it could be technology that China or Russia or somebody else has developed that could be ahead of the United States then. That's even more worrisome to me.
Well, again, I don't know. It would be very worrisome. I don't know that to be the case, but we need to start finding out.